Hello, everybody, and welcome to One Day Today. We are on episode 61. What a wonderful, experience this has just been for having all these amazing stories of people all over the world, all from every distinction of life, every type of human. We hold this space for you and for what you have to share, what your unique gift, what your unique genius is, and that's why we're holding this space, and we really come together sharing our gifts of our stories, our art, our creativity, and with our stories gathered together we inspire vibrant new connections, experience new collaborations, and really reveal our common unity. And it's really like what this movement is about is just holding a mirror up, like what's possible and when I can see myself in you and you can see yourself in me, and that we hold the space for ourselves and for our neighbors to just for that humanity, for that possibility in each other. What if labels that we hold to each other that's different, and that's the separation and division in those conversations that we see so prevalent on social media? Like what if the conversations of division were besides the point? What if the labels were just arbitrary and we actually were focusing on the beauty that we all have within us, that we all can create together when we water our gifts, when we give sun to these seeds of possibility that each of us plant, and it's like, and that's what this is. That's why we're here. It's like, what can we achieve together? What could humanity, what new like lengths, what new heights could we reach when we actually stand on that notion and choose today to just recognize the beauty in the world and in our fellow humans. And it's exciting to me every day that I was just telling our guests, before we just started here, just like, I'm just so excited every day because I learned something I didn't know. I get a perspective that I've never had because you have something that I don't have. You have something that all of us don't have. And what you have and the unique gift and the unique genius that you have enriches us in ways that we couldn't without you. And it's like you have so much power. And when each of us recognize just that within ourselves and within each other, that's when we can thrive and get to new levels and unprecedented new realms of possibility together. And that's why we're holding this space. And that's why I'm excited to be here today with you. But first, let me welcome our co-host Matthew. Matthew, good to see you, brother. How are you this week?
I am incredibly grateful. I landed back home on Hawaii yesterday evening and immediately got to go straight to the beach and hop in the ocean and just like have that nice salty baptism and just, ground here. And so this is my first full day back, and it's been beautiful and amazing, and I'm grateful to be here and to be part of this, like holding up that mirror. Um, and it's funny, like labels, like to me, it's not just like what if, it's just they are arbitrary.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're completely relative as far as I can tell. And just the quick example, I was talking to someone on Twitter months ago, and in my mind, I considered him kind of like a very libertarian type person.
Mm-hmm.
And I did like he was talking to someone else, and they called him a libertarian. He was like, "Don't call me a libertarian. I'm not a libertarian. I don't know which." And like, and I just like it was just one of those aha moments of yeah, okay, every single label that we have means something entirely different to at least half the population out there, if not more.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Uh, and so it's something I'm very conscious of is like I don't pigeonhole people, I don't pigeonhole myself, and I don't apply labels. Like I am what I am, and that's all there
Mm-hmm.
is to it.
Right. No, it's so powerful. Like, just like what you're saying, it's not just the labels we use with each other. It's the labels we use with ourselves.
Mhm.
Like we focus on. If I focus on what makes me different, then I will feel different. I will feel less. I will feel like if I focus on the lack that I experience, even if I got a million things done, I will focus on the 10 things that I didn't do. If I, it's like it's But when we focus on beauty, when we focus on, our intention, when we focus on just really seeing our neighbor for the possibilities that they hold within them. And we hold that space for ourselves too, like holding that grace for ourselves and each other. There's no barrier to what we can achieve and to what we can open up, collect individually and collectively. And
Exactly.
it's exciting. It excites me and it inspires me. That's why I'm here.
Sorry, one of the joys of Hawaii is like sometimes it just randomly starts raining, and that happened. So I'm coming undercover for a second.
It just looks so just an ugly place to be. I feel so.
Oh, oh, it's awful. I don't know, like, I don't know why anyone would ever be here, and that's
Yeah,
not it's
yeah.
like now you can't see my face. Uh, as I was saying backstage, professionalism is not something we strive for here at all.
It's it's a it's a powerful place to be able to, you know, focus on even amidst pandemic, amidst all the political polarity, all like there's so much beautiful things happening in the world when and the people that are creating amidst all the things happening, that it excites me. And it's just like, and that's what I see, and that's why we continue this, because like every day I'm just reminded of just, despite all the things happening, there's so much amazing things happening that people right now today are choosing to have the courage to stand in something greater than themselves. And and on that note, I think we should welcome our first guest. Let's
I think
welcome.
we should too.
We have with us Yermi Kurkus. Hello, Yermi. Thank you for
Hey
being here.
there. Thank you so much, guys. Abe and Matthew, you guys are awesome. I love the message and I love everything you guys are doing. Super passionate and really, really grateful to be here today. So thanks again.
Thank you.
We're excited to have you. I'm really excited. We had a conversation a couple weeks ago, and I'm really excited to have you share. So I'm just gonna hop to it if you're all right with that.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, Yermi, the stage is yours.
Thank you. So have you ever felt a 3 tons of bricks just hitting you, falling on you? Or how about the world ending the way you know it? So that was my 2010, about 10 years ago. You see, I grew up in Montreal, Canada, in a Jewish Orthodox community. And in the community, I just love to volunteer and taking part within the community affairs. My parents and teachers, they told me that, hey, a person can make a living by helping people and by being that kind of person. And I found that to be so novel that a career could be something this cool. And so growing up, I did not grow up in a bed of roses. I grew up in abuse and uncertainty, hardships, and my volunteering was a way of me running away or trying to be that positive within that evil that was surrounding me. And so as I grew up and keeping this in mind, that it's time to find a career, I figured, hey, let's go be a doctor. That's somebody who saves people's lives, and it's somebody who does good for a living, and he does a decent living at least. So after taking a few classes in pre-med and after volunteering as a paramedic, I quickly came to learn that medicine was just not for me. And so I began my journey in searching who I am, and I started off with business. I went to business school and I started my own little business. So have you ever felt that no matter how much you try, you keep trying to look for meaning in life, but it just doesn't seem to work? Or whatever you try to do, you just keep failing? That's when 2010 hit. Can you imagine what it feels like when your wife leaves you and takes the kids? You're ending up in divorce. To me, it was very important to save that marriage and to do everything I could to try to mend and try to build anew. The hardship of divorce and the heartbreak of divorce just wasn't something I was willing to accept. But then, how about the person who dies and somebody who you love the most, the person who brought you into this world, your mother dies? Or how about that business that you put so much energy into, time, sweat, investment, whatever it was? You put all these things and some external powers, government rules that you never knew were in place, forces you to shut down your business. All that happened in 10 days. From Thursday to Monday, 10 days, I got hit by these 3 tons of bricks. I was shot, I was down, and I was completely beaten. I fell into serious clinical depression up to the point of contemplating suicide. When that dark and really, really terrible rock bottom moment, I suddenly found a small glimmer of hope. That little hope that told me, just how could God put me on this earth for this amount of time, 20 something years, and this is how it ends? All these hardships, all these challenges, all these difficulties, is this it? It just didn't make sense to me. And so despite growing up in religion and despite growing up in faith, this was the very first time that I actually raised my hands up in the air, got down on my knees, and just yelled out, Hashem, God, or whoever's up there, whoever you are, if you're even listening, if you even exist, I don't know. But I'm putting this ball back in your court. I'm down, I'm defeated. I don't know what to do. You made this, you fix it. It's your problem now. I am going to devote my life to you and to make this world a better place, because that's how I cope, and that's what I believe in. That's where I find meaning. So whatever it is, this is where I'm at. And just to cool off a little bit, I took a walk. I went out and took a walk. And I bumped into a buddy of mine. I haven't seen him in a little while. And he's back in Montreal for his sister's wedding. And we got to talking just briefly. And he tells me that he's an advocate for inmates in prison. He runs the Los Angeles office of that organization. And I thought, wow, that's so cool. Tell me more about this prison stuff. And bottom line, I ended up volunteering. And it turned out to become an 8-year position. And I eventually got it as a full-time job. It reminded me of Viktor Frankl's message that he says in his book, A Man's Search for Meaning, that when a person finds meaning in whatever it is that they're doing, they could get through the biggest hardships, whatever it is. And so that's how I found meaning, by giving over to other people and going into the prison system. And that to me was my way of finding meaning in my life. So as I said, I was volunteering in prison, ended up as a full-time job during the time which I went and got the therapy that I needed. I went back to school, got into education, got several degrees in psychology. And I've also discovered meditation. I started learning the teachings of the Tao Te Ching, Kabbalah, and other spiritual scriptures. And that's how One Up was born, a program that I designed for the prison system, a book that I'm in the middle of trying to publish. And I was hoping that this was going to help the people that I was serving. So let me just give you a quick story of the success of One Up. There was a young 21-year-old individual under the influence committed a terrible crime, a super gruesome murder. Unfortunately, he was under influence, but that does not excuse what he's done. And the judge gave him the full extent of the law, life without the possibility of parole. This young 20-something-year-old individual will never see the light of day, never get out of prison. Obviously, he falls into to depression, and he ends up coming to my One Up course. And today, I find out that he's found his own faith on his own. He's come to terms with his plight. He's found meaning in what he's doing. He got a degree in finance, helps other families of inmates with their financial situations, and has developed a university course in prison, teaching other inmates finance and getting them somehow certified. Now, I don't exactly know how that works because that's not in my purview, but it was really interesting to see how this young person is now thriving even behind prison doors. And that occurred to me. This past year, I decided to move on and try to answer a powerful question. OneUp has transformed jailbirds into eagles. How can OneUp transform eagles such as yourself? And that was huge for me. I asked myself, business people, business professionals, all these people who have dreams, if inmates are transforming their life, how much more so could it transform other people's lives? And so I set out to really help as many people as I could, developed an entire business around it, developed everything that I'm about right around that message. And today, in 2020, when we face all these hardships, all these struggles, all these uncertainties, the same craziness that's flying out there, we don't know. It occurred to me, and I got this, what I call a Malcolm Gladwell moment, where Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outliers says that it takes a professional to become really good at what they do. They need to invest about 10,000 hours or 10 years. Well, 2020 is 10 years after 2010, and I put a lot more than 10,000 hours into this. And so I decided to go out and inspired by the 10,000 hours to help out 10,000 people. And so therefore, I'm reaching out to the community. I'm reaching out to people. I'm offering a free problem solving, you give me one problem and together we try to solve that problem. It's completely free, no commitments, nothing. I'm here for you and I'm here to help out. So feel free to reach out, and that's my story.
Thank you, Yermi, for sharing. It's so inspirational, your transformation, obviously going through all that, the trauma and, in 1 week going through all of that, and then discovering your own, not only your own power, but, exponentially getting it to a point where you're like, I love that you're jailbirds into eagles. That's so beautiful. It's so powerful. It's like I feel like, especially in the US, with our whole prison industrial complex, we're so quick to sign people off and say like, oh, they're bad. They did something bad. Like the people in prison are the only people that have done things bad in their life. But it's like we like they're bad and there's no chance of getting better. And it's like we just like we're so focused on, in my experience, I feel we're so focused on the symptoms as opposed to the source of what causes us to do or allows us to be in a place where we do things that are toxic. And I think it's just so powerful. I just acknowledge you for just being such a source of light and love, and just being there for the people that most of society I feel overlooks. And I think it's so powerful that that you are standing for people, because it's like and I guess I want to ask you just what do you see, why do you help people in prison? Why not help people that aren't in prison? What made you want to help people that most of society would just say have no hope of any redemption?
So yeah, thanks again. Thank you for all those wonderful words, and they really resonate on so many levels. Your question is super powerful, and I kept asking that to myself several times. Let me tell you, it's not easy. It's not easy to drive 3-4 hours to middle of nowhere to prisons. There was a point where I was visiting about, let's say, 5 state prisons, 2 county jails, and two juvenile facilities, all within a month. So I would rotate these, every other week I'll be in another place. And I was full time, just going full time to the prisons and coaching thousands of inmates, a month. And what was the driving force? So many times I was asking that to myself. And I think it was also just the overall organizational culture of the business, of the organization I was in. Here it was, this unwavering love for everybody. Now, the organization started from trying to advocate for innocent people in prison. There are many of those, unfortunately. But it sort of graduated into this, everybody is human. And no matter what hardship we go through, and no matter what mistakes we go through, that's exactly how OneUp was born. I was led to believe I was a terrible person. The divorce was extremely difficult on me. I thought I was doing something seriously illegal, in terms of government and stuff. There were so many things that I had to go through growing up and, through my life, and then just finding this unwavering love. I don't care what crime you committed. I don't care anything what you did. And just really going to the soul, to the core of who an individual is. And that's unique in the prison system, and that's something that they need because they have no humanity when they go to these thrown out warehouses. But then we tend to also forget the average every single day individual. We talk about equality, we talk about diversity, we talk about so many things in business, and business are the real people. Business has just become so inhumane in a sense. Politics has become inhumane. Everything has become inhumane. And so that's what, it just turned out to be that 2020, I decided to do this. The pandemic hit after I left the prisons, exactly 3 days after I left the prisons, actually. And One Up was supposed to be a business around helping businesses find the humanity within them. And that's what I'm trying to do now.
Mhm. Wow, that's so powerful. For some reason, what's coming to mind is it's a quote I remember from I think it's a book and a movie, but it's called Peaceful Warrior, and he says, those who are the hardest to love are the ones that need it the most."
Mm.
And I think that's it's. I feel I mean, it's easy to get disconnected with people who have done things that are terrible things, whether it's murder or like they've harmed people. Their toxicity has spilled over into the world, and it's like that's. But we're so quick to just throw those people out, like we do in prison and in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like there's no hope, there's no chance of them doing anything. And I'm, I see, when we actually, those people that we just cast aside and say, it's like, my experience, I feel that we don't see how that harms us. Like, how connected we are, how how we treat the least of our, how we treat people, like the lowest people like the people who have it the worst in our society, the ones that we sweep under the rug, the suffering of others, like whether it's in their physical, their psychological, their mental, their spiritual space. When we pretend that somebody else's suffering doesn't come back to us. And it's like, and this is like this cycle that I see in the world. It's like we're so quick to just avoid, just sweep those problems under the rug and not focus on the source. Because it's like, ultimately, like when we allow our toxicity to be in the world, when we actually don't take responsibility for our toxicity, for our space, it comes back to bite it. We might not see it, but it always comes back. Like when we, the saying, hurt people hurt people. And if we just overlook and let hurt, it's like we enable that by not seeing that we are enabling the toxicity by sweeping it under the rug. Like right. The way we treat the least of us, like the people the lowest on the totem pole, is ultimately will affect everybody, at every tier of society. And it's like it's something that I'm seeing, and especially with COVID, is pointing to this. Is like the experience of when I'm sick or my neighbor's sick, it means I can be sick, and it means but the opposite is also true. When my neighbor is healthy, when my neighbor is safe, when my neighbor is experiencing joy in their community, it's like it all comes back to me. It's like my neighbor's healthy and safe. That means me and my family are healthy and safe. And I would love to hear your thoughts on just like what you see as possible when we actually have compassion for the people that we have overlooked and the people that we do, cast aside.
So you guys were speaking right in the opening, Matthew and Abe were talking about labels. We're very quick at labeling. That's something we just became so good at. Mm-hmm. We're professional labelers, if in a sense, this guy's Jewish, that guy is Muslim, this guy is this, and This one's black, this one's white, this one, all these labels, you see. What I've discovered, and it took me a very long time to discover this, just going to the source, okay? And, Kabbalah talks about this, the Taoism talks about this, that there is an energy that is way bigger. All religions have one thing in common, okay? If we look at every religion, let's break down every single religion to the very, very source and the very core. All religions believe, no matter what it is, that there's some kind of power that is bigger than. Everybody believes this, okay? Call it God, call it Jesus, call it Allah, call it Buddha, call it tree, call it, I don't care what you call it. Everybody has the exact same definition for their whatever, i.e. higher power. And that higher power, so let's go Kabbalah, okay? Let's just try to make this simpler. According to Kabbalah, this higher power has a sort of like a light source, okay? And this light source is all encompassing around the universe, and it is just too big to go into the universe. And so it channels energies through multiple channels. To be exact, it's actually 10 super channels, and then those are split into 10, and it goes on. The Tao calls it the 10,000 things. And so these channels are energy channels that come down to the world. One, for example, is kindness. Kindness is a channeled energy from this large light. Another one is severity. So severity is a light from God. Kindness, severity, beauty, royalty. Royalty just means different levels or hierarchies. These are all energies, and we all see them at play every single day, everywhere we are. Now, here's the kicker. We are part of that energy. So our makeup as individuals, as people, we are part of this great energy. And so that's what many people call soul, or what I call the higher version of self. The higher version of self is actually straight energy from this light of this higher power. And so the trick is, if you tap into that energy, then you're able to tap into the energy of the entire universe. And positivity could actually come your way. And it's really this mindset that things that seem negative actually are positive in one way or another, because all this energy, you're part of it, right? And so that's what I'm saying, is that yes, we see all these difficulties, and as you said, we see the sickness, we see the hardships, but they are also the other side of the coin of the blessings and of the positives. So yes, there will be times that we're going to struggle, but then there's also times when we will thrive, because the world needs to balance itself. If there was too much struggle, the world would go one way. If there was too much positive, the world would go another way. We need that balance in order just to survive. So when difficulties happen, we have to remember the positive as well. And here's just, I'm sorry if I'm going on a rant here, but it's really interesting, because I literally just had this meditative, my wife and I have these meditative discussions where we meditate together. And I was just talking to you guys backstage about the storm that we just had and that we're having again. We planned for what's the worst case scenario? What's going to happen if the storm hits? What do we do? How do we prepare ourselves? But we forgot to plan for what would happen if the storm blows over, or what happens. We forgot to plan for the best case scenario, and that led to that mindfulness discussion, where the same way we should plan for something, worst case scenario, but we should also plan for the best case scenario, which we often tend to forget. So this will blow over. Things are going to be good, and it's just the world balancing itself out.
Yeah, I like the way you put that, and it's very similar to kind of how I look at it, which is this is simply a time of disruption, of change, and I I know labels are arbitrary, but like one of the first things that came when you were talking about jumping into the prison system, reforming the prisoners, is like, he's the disruptor. Like, this is and to me, you're a much needed one, where you are being an example and creating other examples of things that many
Hmm.
people consider impossible. And there's so many of these that are happening right now where, I mean, Elon Musk and his whole thing going to Mars, and uh, you know uh, being able to work remotely, and like just I can just go on and on and on about all the disruptions that are happening right now. But like the disruption that you're talking about is one that really touches my heart, because it does exemplify to me that no one is beyond redemption. And I really, really appreciate that. Like that is just huge. And I hope one day my prayer would be that this actually leads to an entire reform where like we don't even have a prison system, but we have some sort of like reclaiming or redemption, or like a process of cleansing and purifying and going back to the source in each individual person, and looking at, okay, what got you here? What are you believing that is continuing to bring pain into your life? And how can we work through that together and heal it, and then bring them back into society in a way that uh, actually brings them back into a place where, like the example you said, the kid who is now like teaching finance in prison and certifying finance, like because he had that redemption moment, he had his healing. He's now creating that this massive benefit for society that never would have happened otherwise. And that's just like that's amazing to me. Like to me, that's what Christ talked about. That's what Muhammad talked about. That's what the Buddha talked about. It's all of them, is healing the trauma, clearing the mind, getting back to that meditative state so that you can find what you truly are and then create from that, not from everything that you've experienced in this world that has programmed your mind, basically. Like all the traumas and the fears and the beliefs and the desires. Um, that's huge to me. And I don't. The question that comes is the one that Abram asked, because I don't feel like you fully answered it. Like, what drew you to the prisons? Like, what specifically brought you there?
So it was just the first available
It was just
opportunity,
seriously that was it.
It came out.
Like,
It came out like, yeah. So I was literally like this is crazy, and it's the first time I'm actually admitting it. Like I was literally contemplating suicide, and I was walking to the bridge actually, and I was just saying, there's a short distance walk from the apartment that I was renting at the time to the bridge, and I said, God, this is the amount of time you have. And literally, as I'm crossing the street, I'm bumping into this guy who is, what he does and stuff, and that's literally what happened. And it was just this. So it was the very first available opportunity. I was just looking for meaning, and I was just so lost, and I didn't know what to do. And I gave God an ultimatum. I literally just said, this is what it is. You send me in the direction that I need to go. So that's how that happened.
to me, the most amazing part of that
Wow.
is you did not find this until you were absolutely broken.
Hmm.
That moment of complete surrender, and then
Yeah, yeah. And so much has been born from it, and I've been blessed to be part of the team. Like I was in the organization that was one of the 7 organizations behind prison reform. Prison reform is happening. There was a law called the First Step Act that was signed into law a couple of years ago. I know for certain that there's more coming. Hopefully the governments and the right president will sign that into law. There's so much going on, and it's happening. There are people out there that really, really care, that are fighting, tooth and nail for it. I've seen it. I was in 2 prison reform conferences, which I took a huge part of, organizing. I was part of the team that organized. It's happening. So I was just happened to be, my job was the boots on the ground. Like I was there getting the data, getting the information, you know, living, you know, alongside these people. And, you know, I've met celebrity murderers, you know, and like what I mean by that is that very, very famous murderers. Um, and, you know, one in particular was just a complete psychotic nutcase. So that was a total lost case. But he just wanted to make fun of any religious whoever, and I was going in as a chaplain at the time. But that was the only once that I've ever experienced any form of negativity coming from these individuals. For the most part, there was one other very famous murder. Obviously, I'm bound by confidentiality, so I'm not allowed to share names. But this one individual that the media made him look like a real, you know, terrible murderer. Granted, he was in that mindset at the time, so it's not that it was a lie. But this individual, he has completely transformed his life. He's a huge source of positivity. He's currently writing a book, eventually going to be releasing it out there. I can't wait for it. And I was one of the people who encouraged him to write the book at his own time and when he's ready. But there are people who do transform, but it takes work. It takes work, and all of us need to want it, you know. And I strongly believe that now it's time for businesses to transform, you know, because a lot of people think like businesses are these terrible salespeople or, you know, social media, technology, you know, all these things. You know, if we were just more mindful and we were just a little bit more human, okay, if for the lack of better words, um, you know, and that's my next step. That's me winding up my life. So that's where I'm at, and it's really important that we bring humanity back into the equation.
Aho.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's you said it. Humanity back in the equation. It's we'll focus on every other distinction that the mind can conjure up to label. Like we add meaning, we add labels like that, and that's kind of how the mind works. Is it's we you know we want to make it, we want things to be so black and white, and like this person's bad, and then forever they're bad. This is good. This is bad. This is evil. This it's like, and through our conversations we just create these pigeonholes where we limit ourselves to our own conversations of what we are the victim at the effect of our mind's insane cycle that there's no containing it. It's like their mind's going to do what our mind's going to do whether we try to do it or not, and we allow our actions and our civilization develop on the toxicity of the mind without even it's like the undistinguished ego of at the helm of the mind. And I think it's so it's so powerful, and it's so to be able to hold compassion for the most evil of people, because it's like because when we see their humanity, when we can see it's like just the truth is we are all capable of evil. We're all capable of beautiful things too. And like I think John Lennon said, we're all capable of we all have the capacity to be Jesus. And we all have the capacity to be Hitler. We all have that ability. Like that's human. Like it's like we are a blank canvas. We are a piece of art. We choose, and when we actually see that we have that power to choose right now and right now and right now, how we not react but respond to the present moment, whether we call it the will of God, whether we call it just circumstance, like it's like we don't have to react with toxicity. And it's like even to the people that have been toxic to us, like and it's like that's like the power of forgiveness, the power of grace for ourselves and others is transformative, because it's like when we hold that space for others, it's like when they don't even hold it for themselves, it's like it gives them the space to actually find that redemption. It's like that's how I imagine, like in your experience, like hardened criminal people who have had just murderers, people who have done terrible things, can find the most beautiful, like can be the source of the most beautiful things that we never would expect. but we've signed them off. It's like you never think that somebody would capable of something beautiful because we've labeled them as bad and no chance of ever getting better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I literally like I would literally scream out from the rooftops, literally everything you just said. I just want to put create a little mindset or a perspective. Everything you just said, I would just call it channeling the energies. We have to tap into those energies that are coming our way. So anything that's going on negative, pandemic, political, social justice, all these things, they're happening for a reason. Okay. It's kind of like the universe is testing us as a species. How are we going to respond, and how do we channel that energy? Are we going to channel through breaking stores, or are we going to channel it through conversation and through acceptance, tolerance, all these different other solutions? And I mean, I don't think I have all the solutions to the world's problems, but I definitely think that we have the tools to just tap into these energies that are coming our way, and to channel them in the right direction. And that's what I hope to help as many as I can. I have a ridiculous goal to reach 7 billion people, changing this world, one job, one dream, one job, and one business at a time. We all are dreamers. We all have one job or another. Either it's like something that we have some kind of play in this world. And there are many businesses, and I believe that businesses are the people who transform the world. Just think about Apple, and think about all the small to medium-sized businesses that are our economy, that what makes this world go around. So those three, if we could all, and I cannot do it by myself, I need people like you. And the more we reach out and the more we do this, we are going to transform this world, and we will channel these energies to a more positive way, guaranteed.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful, and I say it's not ridiculous at all. I think you are impacting the world, and I think it's like even if we don't distinguish exactly what it is, like you are, like it's like we don't always see the impact that we make, but everything that we do ripples, and it's like every just for one prisoner, one person who's locked away that you've impacted is impacting so many more, and it's like it has a ripple effect. So we all it's so easy to sign ourselves off that we don't have the power to change the world. But the fact is, whether we think we do or don't, we do. Because everything we do has an impact. Because it's like a smile or a frown, a handshake or fist that we extend. It could be that. It could be the last. It could be that smile could be the last thing that somebody needed before they were going to commit suicide. That gave them faith in humanity. It's like there's so much. We have so much power when we actually stand in and recognize that. But thank you so much, Yermi, for sharing and being with us. I just really appreciate and honor you, and it's just such a privilege to have you share your story with us. We're gonna check back with you in just a moment. We're gonna welcome our second guest in just a moment here. But thank you, Yermi, and thank you all for tuning in. I want to take this moment real quick to just invite you to be part of this stage. This is here for you. This is here for you to share yourself, your gift, your genius. Like I said before, you have something that enriches us all. You have something that we don't have, and your perspective, your triumphs of overcoming your fears, the things that have held you back, the things that have blocked you in your life are gifts. When you share how you overcame them, how did you come to discover yourself, like your true self, your own power? Like that's what we're here for. It's like we want to know what brought you here, what brought you to experience your own beauty and the beauty of the world, because there's something so powerful in you that you have to share. And that's what our mission is here at One Day, is bringing you and me and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. We're doing that one story at a time. Now, I would like to invite our second guest. We have Tiiu Napp. Hi, Tiiu. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me. It's really an honor to be here.
Oh, we're so excited to have you. Well, I appreciate you joining us today. I'm really you shared with me some of your story, but I want to just I'm just going to give you the stage now because I would love for you to share your story with us, Tiiu. So,
Wow.
Tiiu,
Okay.
the
Thank
stage
you.
is yours.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Abran. And wow, listening to Yermi, I'm like not sure where to start with my story because there's so much that he said that resonates. He talks about a higher power, and I've always believed in one. He talks about the energies, and I'm very, very new at learning so much more about that on a spiritual realm. But before I go into that, I think I'm just going to go back to my story, okay? Because I didn't come from a great upbringing either. I had a lot of different kinds of abuse. And, there's 6 different kinds I've learned. And what we have is how, everything that we have, what I've learned along the way is that everything that we need to survive and grow in our world is inside us. But so many times we're labeled, we're pigeonholed, like you guys were all talking about earlier, that we don't even really know who we are because we're always fighting with all these different labels that we've had. And me, I was a skinny kid. Okay, I was a skinny kid with a weird first name. And when I went to school, I was bullied all the time. I got ridiculed, I got picked on, I had eggs thrown at me, all kinds of stuff. And what that did was it destroyed my self-worth, self-confidence, and self-love. And along that way, I didn't think I was worthy. So every time I was abused, whether it was physically, verbally, sexually, whatever, it put me lower into the gutter, okay? Because that's where I felt like I belonged. And if anyone can relate to that, I'm sure most people can, because, it's like, for some reason, when we hear a comment, when it's a compliment, maybe you get one compliment, but you get 100 compliments and you get one negative comment. And the one thing you're going to resonate with and remember is that one negative thing. And each time you have negativity happening in your world, it puts you in that level of maybe I'm not worthy, and you lose your confidence, okay? So for me, what happened was I kept looking for love in all the wrong places, you could say. I left home when I was 18. I got in with the wrong crowd. And the next thing you know, I was married with 2 kids and I was 21. And going into that, I can go on and on and on, but that's why I'm writing this book. I hope it's okay because I can't see anybody but me, but this is my book, okay? It's called Healing the Holes in Your Soul. And right now it's a picture, picture of the cover. And what that is my story from abuse, the lessons I learned, and how I rose out of the gutter in my life and have become a servant, okay? I'm a servant to help others who have also lost their way. I lost my purpose a long time ago. I didn't really know what it was. And what it is now it's helping women and men who have been victims of domestic violence. I was in that for a long, long time. And to be able to step out of that and realize that, what, that's not who I am. I'm not my past. And I am not my body. My body has been through the ringer and I'm not my body. I am the soul inside, okay? The way I understand it, and I've had a lot of help along the year, through the years, but the one driving force that kept me going was what my inside voice was telling me. Okay, because people come and go in our lives. People come and go in our lives. Some stay for a while and then, and we learn the lessons, sometimes the hard way. But the one person that I have to give credit to the most is a man who totally changed my life a little over a year ago when I first met him. He taught me about the 2 energies, okay? We have the energy of love, unconditional love, and we have all the other stuff that's negative, okay? And we can go into categorizing all the emotions one way or the other and all the things that happened in our life. But bottom line is everything fits into one of those categories, okay? It's either positive or negative. And nothing negative can survive in the world of unconditional love. I have so many people that I could be pointing fingers at. I can have so many people that I could be blaming for the crummy things that happened in my life, okay? And trust me, there were many. But the one thing that sticks in my mind is that in order for me to heal and grow, I have to forgive all of them and thank them for the lessons that they've taught me. Because if it wasn't for everything negative that I went through, I wouldn't be here writing my book to help other people that can also find value inside themselves. Because we're all, whether you're, whatever religion you are, whatever faith you are, is not really up to anyone to choose, okay? You know where your faith is. But we all know that there's one power greater than us. And that is like what Irby was mentioning earlier about the energy that comes from the universe, that comes through us. We're a conduit for God, the true source, I call him. Actually, he's androgynous, okay. But God, the true source, we are an aspect of God, the true source. And our souls, we each have one when we were born, are on a mission. Okay, and our goal in the human incarnation is to find out what our mission is and then carry it through. And the way to do that is recognizing our strengths, where we are, and how we can grow and become more positive in our environment, whether we're relating to people, relating to our elements. I don't go into the politics. I'm not going into any kind of a religion thing. What I'm looking at is we are all here for a reason, to help each other grow. And what happens so many times is we fall victim to our fears. I'm no different than anybody else. I grew up thinking I wasn't worth anything. That's why I was living in the swill under the gutter. And that's why I was letting other people literally take the pen and write the story of my life. And what I realized was that it's my decision what choices I make. So when I began working with Dr. Michael Gross, who taught me that the power of unconditional love, what God, the true source, provides for us, and how we can understand that connection, which has been there the whole time, okay? When you hear it here and you begin to live it and breathe it, there's an amazing power that grows from within the love that you feel inside. And I could go on because, and I know we have a limited time here, okay? I could go on because in this last year, my life has totally changed. All the things that I thought I was unworthy, I thought I was a crummy mom, I thought I was a poor wife, I thought, everybody else is better than me. And that's not true. I took down the mask. I'm not pretending to be anybody anymore. I am who I am. And that is so uplifting. That's so, the burden that I had, okay, all the negative stuff was baggage I drug around in my life. I'm 67 years old. Trust me, I have a whole lot of baggage. And what I've learned how to do is to release it, let it go. Because three things matter most. It's a quote, and I know I'm paraphrasing, but Buddha wrote this quote a long time ago. And the three things that matter most are how well you lived, how deeply you love, and how gracefully you let go of the things that aren't meant for you. Everyone has that purpose. You have to find your own, because our world is in chaos, okay? And right now, whoever winds up being in office, we have to go with that and be resilient to what's ahead. But know this, okay? The book I'm writing is designed to help many people find their way. I didn't know my own, but I do now. And that's because I truly believe that there's a power in meditation, in understanding that connection that our soul has with the true source. Okay? And we can't tell anyone else how to think, how to feel, and how to believe. All we have to do is worry about what's going on within us. Because when you become more loving and forgiving, that's when you grow. All my life, I like to look at this as like I showed. I hope it's okay to show this, but this is the cover, and it's a pink rose, okay? And the reason why it's a pink rose is pink is the color of love. And a rose is a symbol of love. And through my life, every time I got abused, and trust me, that was a lot, it ripped the petals off the rose, okay? The rose is a symbol of my soul, okay? And every time something bad happened, it shredded the rose. But we can make that choice anytime in our lives right now to change our mindset, change our fear-based mindset. I was a prisoner even after 30 years of being away from my abusers. Okay, and there were a couple. I mean, 34 years ago, this past summer, was the last time my head was smashed against the inside of a truck window. And there was an aha moment that I had. I looked up, it was the 4th of July, 1986. I looked up at the house and I saw my young children looking out the window as their father was pummeling my head into the window. And I thought to myself, I hope they can't see this. It's dark and I hope they can't see what's happening. And something in my mind just snapped. And that was when I started fighting back. And I fought back. It took a long time because I was left by myself. I didn't have resources, back then. I didn't know where to go. The only place I knew where to go was to listen to the voice within. So a lot has happened in 34 years. And some of that's in the book. And the lessons that I learned are in that book as well. But the one thing that really, really changed my life was when I met Dr. Michael Gross, and he taught me the power of unconditional love. And he has a book out called The Spiritual Primer. When he taught me some of what's inside his book, it became an answer to my prayers. Finally, I understand why everything else in my life happened, because it's my driving force to make sure that I help other people realize their value and raise their self-worth, self-love, and self-esteem. Because that's all we're here for. We're here to help each other. It's not about the masks we wear. It's seeing beyond the mask and understanding the person that's inside. So on that note, I've got a little warning here, and I appreciate that. I really, truly do. Just make sure that when life gets chaotic, as it will from time to time, pivot toward love. Because when you pivot to love, you get to find the answers inside your own heart. And, be of service to others. Help them find their soul as well. Thank you. Oh, and I had one more thing to add. As a victim and a survivor, and where I am today, I offer a 30-minute free consultation to help others get out of the wreckage of their past and move forward as well. It's my gift to you. So contact either one of these two young men who are so wonderful at what they do. I appreciate both of you for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Tiiu, for sharing your story and just your beautiful transformation that you're just sharing with us all. And that pink rose is so apt, because it's like you're sharing that love and that beauty. You've like grown new flowers, and you are spreading new seeds of love, and just you having the courage to overcome and step through that suffering that you've had throughout your life with the abuse. And I think it's just so powerful that you found your purpose in allowing others to overcome their suffering and allowing others to find their power and their strength. And it's like, because it's like that's kind of a part of life, is like there's a lot of, like myself included, like I was a victim of different types of abuse and carried it for most of my life without even realizing the effect and the impact it had with my experience and my reality and my conversations with myself. I felt small most of my life, and I felt like I didn't have any power. I felt like I was I was the effect of the chaos in my life. And it takes so much courage to do what you've done, and to just to be standing where you are now, and to have this beautiful book that you're writing, just to create, like I think I was speaking to you earlier, just to create like diamonds and pearls out of humans. It's under our pressure that our beauty is like our true beauty is able to shine through. And I think you are just an actualized, example of that. It's just like there's so because you're just sharing, your presence. You have such a warm, compassionate, loving presence, and it just like it's contagious, and it's just like I just so honored by you and your strength that you're sharing with us today. So first of all, thank you for sharing with us. But I'd love to know. I'm curious, like what do you say to people who are suffering now? People who might be dealing, whether it's in the pandemic, or maybe it's at home, or maybe it's at work, but people who are dealing with abuse, people who are dealing with suffering that feels out of their control. What do you say to people who want to stop suffering but don't see a way out?
Well, the first thing I ask them is if they're in a safe place. Part of I have a website, and I have like an emergency survival guide that helps them, get out of that danger zone, because it takes a lot of courage to step away from the thing that even though you're not in a good place, even though that 1 in every 5 individuals is suffering abuse, and some of them don't make it. You have to make sure that when you're talking to someone at first, that they're safe. And then you give them the tools. You say, okay, you make sure the children are safe if there's children involved, because children learn by watching what we do. A lot of what our children, what my children learned, they heard things and they saw things that unfortunately leave an indelible mark on them. So you want to make sure the safety comes first. And then I would say, stop, pause, and listen to your heart. Start with listening to your heart, for in it, the true source speaks. That was the one driving thing that kept me going when there were times I was suicidal too. And there wasn't any bridge where I could go, but there was a gun in the house. And at one point, I will say that I almost set my house on fire just to get rid of them, but I didn't do it. I had a gas can in the car, and I was ready. But you have to look through where you are and to where you want to go, because your choice is your own. And you can either stay victim in that mindset and be scared all your life, or you can take the courage, lift up your bootstraps if you have to, and step out of that, because the unknown is scary, but it's certainly a lot better than where you were.
Yeah. Oh, it's so powerful. Like the unknown, it feels like I know it, like exactly, because it is unknown is like chaos. Because we can't see that unknown around the corner. It's like we don't want to take that first step because we don't know. It's like the uncertainty can be paralyzing. It's like, I don't know if I actually do decide to take action to not be a victim, what's going to happen? Am I going to be okay? Is everything going to be? Is everything going to be taken care of? Am I going to have Am I going to have security? Am I going to have stability? And it's like, speaking for myself, what I've learned is there's no opportunity. Without risk, there's no reward. There's no opportunity without being able to have the courage to step into something that we don't know. Step into, like, especially if we're like in a toxic, like abusive, or any situation that is harmful to us. And it's like, it's scary to take on something new, especially if we don't know what that looks like, because we're so used to the toxicity. We're so used to the suffering. And I guess I want to, in a moment, I want to bring Yermi back in this conversation, but where did you discover, was there a moment that you discovered that you don't have to be a victim? Was there something that happened that you knew, like, this is a choice and I'm not going to be a victim right now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. One of the things that I kept telling myself was, yes, stepping away from what I know is the comfortable zone, because abuse has a honeymoon period. Okay, you get your head smashed, and then there's a I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, and it becomes this honeymoon phase, and you think everything's okay, right? Because you're still here. But what I realized was that fear is the only thing. If I step through the fear, I'll find my courage. Have enough within yourself, have enough faith within yourself to step through that fear of the unknown, because that's where you're hiding your courage. Once you get through that one hurdle, you're going to find that, wow, I did that. Okay. I used to be afraid to drive 10 minutes down the road. And one day, I made the decision, let's go farther. Let's see where we go. And yeah, I was paranoid. I thought, oh, no, what am I going to do? Now I've driven a 5,400-mile road trip by myself. I've flown across, I've flown to Europe alone. I've gone to Africa alone. There's so many things that you learn about yourself when you just have the guts to take that first step, wherever it leads you. So for me, my aha moment was seeing my kids look down in the window. That's when that went off in my head that I need to fight back. But then it was, you have to fight, you have to be strategic. When you're in an issue like I was in the situation that I was in, I couldn't just go back and say, get out of the house. That's not going to work, right? But it was my house. And so I strategically mapped out what I was going to do. And that's why I put that survival guide in my website, because everything we do, even if it's baby steps, we hear this all the time. How do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time, right? This is no different than anything else. But it's also life-changing, okay? If you don't take that step and you sit there and you wallow in the fear and the misery of what you're in, you're not teaching your children, and you're not living the life that you deserve to live. So you've got to be hurting. Like, I think it was Irby who said, things don't change until your life actually falls apart. Okay. You don't take that decision. You don't make that decision until you get to the bottom. And when I was actually at the bottom, I knew I had to make a choice. Am I going to stay here and be miserable the rest of my life, or end my life, or am I going to fight back? And I'm not the quitter. I'm not a quitter. I was raised to have a stubborn streak, and I thought, all right, I'm a Estonian kid. Okay, my mom and dad are immigrants, and there is no way, if they can immigrate during World War II and come out of that with all the other stuff that was going on in their life, then even though I'm in a different kind of war, I have it too. So you have to have that faith in yourself and know that you're not alone. You're never alone. God, the true source, whatever name you give the true source, you've always had that within you. We just forget to pay attention to it and channel that energy forward. Took me a long time to learn it too.
I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you just being here and sharing all of that. There's not many who I meet who have the courage to actually share as realistically and vulnerably and as you did, and continue to. There's something that keeps coming up as you're talking, and it's something that I have noticed in my own personal journey, and also working with others. Like working, I have had the honor of working with many people who have gone through extreme trauma. It's a very similar situation to what you've been in, and there comes a point in that journey of healing where it's like I call it the personal responsibility phase, where it's going back and looking at, like, really looking at the stories that the mind has been telling and identifying the beliefs that maybe weren't fully conscious, but were driving us to make decisions that led us into that abusive situation. And you're nodding, so I'm guessing you're familiar with that part of the journey. And I would love to hear you speak on that for a minute, if you wouldn't mind.
The best thing I can say in a brief encapsulated version is Michael Gross has a quote: "What the mind can conceive, the body will believe." And when we're young, we are impressionable and we learn from all the factors around us. You know, we listen to our parents. What's the first word we usually remember when we're young? First thing we hear is no, right? And that's obviously every word has an energy. That's a negative energy, but we hear that repeatedly. We hear, be quiet, kids are supposed to be seen, not heard. You know, all of those things fall into place. And what happens is, before we know it, our mindset is already programmed to whatever we grew up with, okay? And most people will think, well, that's normal. But is it really, right? For me, I always wondered, okay, when mom and dad took us to church all the time, and I was always wondering why people didn't always practice what they preached. They would be one way in church and then a different way away from church. And then they'd go back on Sunday and they would ask for forgiveness. And I kept thinking, there's something missing here. There's something I'm not getting, okay? And what I realized was that there's a greater understanding, which Irby mentions too, about the energies in the universe and the unconditional love that I call it, that I could have died many times. I almost did, but I'm still here. And I knew I'm still here because I was being sent on a mission to help other people, okay? And I didn't know what that mission was. I didn't figure that out until earlier this year when it was the book. I'm like, oh, hey, okay. Hey, I knew I wanted to help abused people, okay? That wasn't the issue. The issue was I didn't know how. And sharing the story is my way of helping. And then speaking and reaching out is helping as well. So there has to be a mindset shift, okay? If you know you're in the downhill spiral, you could say, you have to make that conscious decision to say, okay, that's it. I'm stopping here. And I'm going to pivot into the positive, and this is how I need to do it. And that's scary. Okay, that's scary. But by the same token, when it happens, when you do it, and you start shifting your thinking, and you start seeing the blessings that come from that, and what you manifest in your life, and when you plant new seeds of positivity, you're creating a whole new garden, okay? That's different than anything I've ever experienced. I meditate now, and I hope you guys don't think I need a net or a rubber room or anything, okay, guys? But when I meditate, I actually hear my parents, and they've been gone a few years. Okay, they're not here anymore, but I hear their wisdom. I hear their words, and sometimes they come in my dreams and they talk to me. And when you see things that you're manifesting actually happen, like yesterday, I can't tell you about that, that's private, but when you see it happen and you're like, whoa, that was something I had prayed for a really long time, just to connect with someone I hadn't been able to talk to, who actually called me yesterday. And it was a freaky, weird thing that happened, but she called me. And hearing her voice was like music to my ears. So when you see the power of unconditional love, when you see that you made that switch, despite what anybody else says, you have to have that faith within yourself and know that what you're doing is the right thing. Everything else will fall. The negative stuff starts falling away. Because as long as you're not picking up that baggage that you had when you drug it around all your life, don't pick it back up. Just keep moving forward and go, I don't need that anymore. That's a change of clothes I don't need, right? Oh yeah, okay, there's an ex, I don't need to talk to him, right? But you move forward and you learn and you grow, and all of a sudden that rose is blooming, a beautiful bush of roses, Mm-hmm. And I'm excited. I'm so glad I was able to be here for a little while. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, me too.
I hope I answered your question. I kind of got off on my tangent.
No, it's perfect. It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I'm gonna.
Yeah, you yeah, I'm gonna bring it. Let's bring in Yermi really quick, but like I'd love to like get his take on all this as well. But like I just touching on what you said really quick too. Like you did answer the question in that you gave the example of the power of the mindset. Like if that negative mindset, that fear-based mindset, that leads to pain, whether we recognize it or not. And then as soon as you make that choice, as soon as you recognize you have a choice, really, because once you even like before you recognize it, you're automatically choosing the fear base. Like you just don't know it. But like as soon as you recognize there is a choice, then who would continue choosing fear? Like that's the moment of like the leap off into manifestation of positivity. Yeah. So thank you.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. That's beautiful. I wanted to offer Yermi if you had anything to say about what Tiiu shared or Tiiu what Yermi shared, but I wanted to open the space up.
So yeah, I mean, I'm just like literally just blown away by Tia's story, and thank you so much for that share. It just wow, like the amount of courage it must have taken for you to come on here is just absolutely mind-boggling. And thank you for allowing us to be part of that journey. So that's just right up front. And there's so many things that you said that like you said there was we resonated on each other's stories, um, four in particular, and I just if I may, I would like to take you on a little journey, and it's what I like to call the release of the prisoner's mindset. We talked here about mindset and everything, and it does attest to my experience in the prison and what I've learned, working with all these inmates. That one thing is in common. Every single one of them is beating themselves up for the crime they've committed. So it's this consistent. The worst part of prison is the amount of time they're actually there. Con- Constantly, they're replaying their crime, and they're replaying the sentencing, and they're replaying, this consistent mindset thing. And it occurred to me that's exactly what I was doing. With my past, with what I was going through. Um, it happened in 10 days, and I was replaying it for so long. I was standing in my own way. And by the way, something I neglected to mention. Um, I worked with abused people. I've worked with substance abuse. I've worked in nursing homes. I just went all out, okay? And it's another part of my story, which is a whole long other part I won't get into, maybe another time. But I was really, really out seeking to help as many as I can. And so I expanded my network outside of the prison system as well. And so again, the consistency was this prisoner's mindset. Okay, the sense of we are now imprisoned in our brain to ourselves. We're stuck in this perpetual, you know, flip or whatever. And what society ends up calling baggage, um, I told myself, if I want to live a life worth living, I have to stop this journey of this prisoner mindset. I have to, settle down in this mindset of peace and tranquility and serenity. I have to take my baggage, open it up, take it out. Okay, the clothes are no longer in my suitcase. It's done. All right, I'm gonna fold these nice clothes into like nice little packages and put it back in the closet where they belong. And I say that because it's important to take our past experiences and not just throw it out, not just, we have to hold on to them, and they are our stepping stones for our recovery. And not just our recovery, but for everybody else's recovery. And that's exactly what you're doing to you. And like that's phenomenal that you were able to see that and you were able to write a book about it and to share, your wisdom with us. which is it's such a blessing to be, even here and part of your journey, and you're allowing us to be there. It's just, it's mind-boggling. Thank you so much for allowing me, at least, to be part of that.
Thank you so much for all of you guys. You guys are awesome. The one thing that keeps popping into my head is that you need to look at the people who hurt you, okay? And you can look at them and understand where they're coming from, okay? There was a reason why they did what they did, and they all have a soul and they have their own soul mission, okay? They know that they did wrong, and you know it too. However, in order to you need to grow, and in order for you to heal, you need to forgive them and thank them for the lessons they taught you. Okay? I thank the people who did me the greatest harm. And trust me when I say this, it was devastating at times, to the point where I couldn't even talk. I couldn't, I just shook and cried. But I had to thank those people, because in my world, they were the people I loved the most. Okay, they were the people with the greatest love that I was giving them. So you can imagine how devastating that felt for me. Now I could drag that around all my life, or I could learn and understand where they come from and thank them. And when I thanked them, I could let that lesson be and start healing myself, which makes me stronger, because now I get it. So when I talk now, I can share what I've learned and help others. And isn't that what life is all about? We all learn and grow. And in that doing, we don't want to keep our lessons to ourselves, because what's the point of learning it if you don't share it, right? But you can't share what you haven't learned. So you have to forgive yourself, because you did the best you could whenever you were, wherever you were. Okay? But you're not there now. You're here. And all we have, the past is a past. We've heard this before on many different quotes. The past is a past, and the future's not here yet. All you have is today, this moment. What are you going to do with it today to turn around and have a more positive, loving future, and share that with others? Because we all have baggage. We don't need to hold on anymore. Okay? We need to learn it, understand it, release it, put it back on the shelf if it's still your style. But bottom line, I am far, far stronger and more loving than I ever was 20 years ago or 30 years ago, because the person I was back then is not who I am today. And it's not who I'm going to be, because my authentic self is just coming out. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
It's exciting.
Yeah. It is. It's just so powerful. Both of you. I mean, I just hear the theme of redemption, and just, facing, trauma, and, being the victim of, horrifying experiences, but on the other end of it, discovering something so beautiful that you never would have imagined before the trauma. And I think it's just so powerful, both of you sharing your stories. Before we close, I just want to offer both of you an opportunity to, any last words you'd like to share after this amazing discussion we've had.
Actually, real quick, I'd like to jump in before you guys have your final word. There was a vision that was coming as you both were sharing just now, and I really feel drawn to share it. Little baby, and every time something painful happens, there's a wheelbarrow that he has that starts filling up. And as he gets older, the wheelbarrow gets bigger, and the more trauma that happens, the more the wheelbarrow feeds up. And it just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing until he's a young man. And then something happens, and he realizes that everything that's in the wheelbarrow he can actually use to make bricks. And he starts taking all of the stuff that has been built up in this wheelbarrow, and he starts turning it into bricks and building this house. And he builds this great mansion, and he starts inviting people to come in and feed. And he goes into the kitchen and he starts taking more stuff that's just been built up in him, and he starts pulling it out and putting it on the table and preparing it and turning it into this amazingly nourishing feast for all the people that he's invited into the house. And like, these are the lessons. It's the pain that we go through that can lead to the lessons, if we choose, that we can then use to nourish others.
Beautiful.
So thank you guys.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Wow, wow. That is beyond amazing, Matthew. That is literally. And you, I'm sorry if I'm jumping in because I want you to have the last word, if that's okay with you. But Matthew, that literally is the segue of my last closing words of what I wanted to say, and it's exactly what Tiiu was saying before. We all have the tools within us, and we don't need, you know, we don't need anything more. We have it all there. So just a quick little anecdote, and I want to keep it as short as possible. There was an old man sitting at the corner of a street, begging for money, begging for help. And he pulls out his little baseball cap, sits on this little crate on the corner of the road, and just asks everybody, please donate, please give over. And one day an individual walks by and says, I'm so sorry, I just don't have actual cash. And he just didn't want to be, rude or anything. So he just says, I'm just going to spend a little bit of time to get to know you, see, who are you, what's up with you. And he says for 30 years, he's been sitting there doing the same thing. 30 years here in this corner. Wow. Sitting on this crate. Yeah, sitting on this crate all this time. What's in the crate? And the old man says, I don't know. And he says, wait, you're sitting on this crate for 30 years and you've never thought of looking in? He goes, no. So he tells him, curious much? And the guy says, well, now that you mentioned it, and they grab a crowbar, whatever, they crack open the crate, and they just see that it's full of gold. This individual has been sitting on gold all these years, probably richer than all the people who's ever donated to him combined. And the lesson is that the good news is that we're not sitting on crates. It's all here in our heart. And I often say, when we're in the rut, when we're in our darkness, we tend to forget just because there's so much overwhelm that's holding us down and the emotion is taking us over. And sometimes what we need is somebody outside. And that's at least what I try to do, is that I come and I tell people, here in one pocket, you have a flashlight. Here in the other pocket, you have some batteries. And if you were just to put them together and just point in that direction, that's your way out of the problem. You have all the tools you need. Sometimes you need that, like awareness, that extra awareness to go out and do that. And that's exactly what Tiiu was saying. And that I just wanted to put it into a little bit of a visualization. And that's what you were saying with the wheelbarrow. I love it. I'm going to probably steal that from you. But and I will say that it was Matthew who taught it to me. So. But it's exactly that, and we all have the tools we need to recover and grow and be stronger.
Powerful.
Yeah,
Thank you. I don't know what your proper protocol here is, but I'd like to leave with one note. Okay, I've come a long way to get to here, and it hasn't been an easy journey. But the greatest gifts were revealed to me by Dr. Michael Gross, who I've mentioned before, because he taught me how to look within and see the universe. Our soul talks to us and it guides us. It saved me so many times because I really didn't know what was going on. And to be here today, I give him my greatest gratitude because he opened the door to the world of spirituality. And in it is where I found me. I've been looking for my purpose all my life. And when he opened that, when he taught me this, all of a sudden, everything in my life made sense. All the things that really science can't explain. And people, if you shared it with them, would think that you're crazy, right? all of a sudden, I had all these aha moments going, oh, that makes sense. So is it, I hope it's okay. He does a call every Tuesday night. Is it okay if I invite people to it? Okay. He does a call. It's a Q&A call every night at 6:30 Pacific time. And you can dial in. It's 515-604-9097. And the PIN number is 125446#. I would love to hear your voices. It's a conference call, so we don't need spaces. We just need a phone. But I would love to have you guys just dial in and listen, because he is the man who changed and saved my life and taught me everything that keeps me moving forward. And so grateful that you guys all came and invited me to this. I would stay connected with all of you, and I'm on Facebook, okay?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Yermi. Thank you, Tiiu, just for being who you are in the world, for just sharing your gifts with us. This has been such an extraordinary conversation. It's just been really inspiring and uplifting for me, just to hear your stories and just to hear what you've done with everything you faced. And this is exactly why we created this space, is just for stories and for people like you who are just shining lights. And you know, it's so refreshing and encouraging to know that you both are in the world doing beautiful things. And you know, it makes the human experience just that much more, you know, enriching. You know, just knowing that there's beautiful people like you that are just, you know, contributing and sharing your light with others. And it's just inspiring. So just thank you. I really just honor you both for being here and for sharing with us. Just thank you again for being with us. Would love to have you both back to share with us again soon and share some more. When you have your book, Tiiu, we want to have you back as well. But thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in with us at home. Thank you all. This is just from the bottom of my heart. Just thank you. This is again, I want to invite you, if you want to be part of this virtual stage, if you want to share your gifts, your contributions, your genius, please, like, I encourage you, I invite you to join us and enrich us with the gifts that you have to offer. You know, that's why we're here, is to share what you have, because there's something you have that will lift us all up, and it'll carry us. You know, and that's part of what our one day vision is about. You know, it's humanity rising in a connected world, with each person's unique contributions being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. And that's why we're here. And I just thank you for being here with us. I love you all. Be safe, be well, and we will see you again on Thursday. And as always, one day is today. Take care, everybody.